Welcome to the Flex Forward Podcast, where grit meets growth. With your host, Nic Espanet, bringing you stories of resilience, reinvention, and the real climb to success.
So we're here with Paul Bonomi. I've known Paul for several years through just investing in meetups and different areas around DFW that we've run into each other. Paul works full-time as an engineer. I'll let him give a little more detail as to what he does in that, but he also has a cool hobby. Maybe it's not a hobby. Maybe he's trying to work into that, but as a DJ at a local radio station, or I think it might be one of the colleges, and he can give some more information on that. But Paul, thanks for coming on. I'm glad to have you and look forward to chatting with you today.
For having me. I haven't done too many podcasts, so I don't have any canned answers. Let's see how this goes.
Perfect.
Maybe each one will get a little bit more when I do more. But anyway, so I'm an electrical engineer, studied that engineering in college. Been doing that for over 20 years. It's actually the only job I've ever had. I've been with the same company the entire time since I left, since I graduated. And I've moved around quite a bit. I've lived and grew up in Massachusetts. I lived here in Texas. I moved to Nebraska, and then I came back to Texas. So I lived here in Dallas twice now. But I work for a large engineering and construction firm, work on big infrastructure projects around North America. That keeps me busy most of the time.
And how about the music DJ side? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, when I'm not working, I love music. So when I moved here to Dallas, discovered some great local musicians, some great talent. Turns out that there's a nonprofit radio station here that plays a lot of local music, and I loved the kind of stuff they were playing. And it turns out it's run by volunteers and donations. So I wanted to get involved and helped out behind the scenes for several years. And after a while, when they saw that I was knowledgeable with the music, they said, "Well, do you ever want to be a DJ sometimes?" So this is a show that's on 6 to 8 p.m. every weeknight. I'm not there every night. I fill in about once a month or so. So it's a blues show. We've got different genres all day. The blues happens to be my specialty. So you should, if you can actually tune in anywhere in the world, you can stream it online, knon.org, 6 to 8 p.m. Central, Monday through Friday.
Very neat. So do you play an instrument or just love music listening?
I love listening to music. I do fool around on guitar and bass sometimes. It's one of those, I don't really do it to try to make a living or anything. I've had some time in garage bands. Right now I will go out and play at like an open mic night for, you do a couple songs, then you go home. It's a very low level commitment, but it's a lot of fun. I found that anything that I do, I determine, well, first of all, if it's not work, if it's supposed to be fun, I determine exactly the level where it stays fun and make sure I stay below that. I don't want to burn out on something that you don't, that's supposed to be fun. So that's why I don't have I don't play in a band, because I just found that was rehearsing all the time and gigging all the time. It just
ends up being an additional job.
It becomes another job. Exactly.
Awesome. Well, that's great. And you have a love. That's awesome, because that helps you keep a love of it, kind of keep it fresh and where it's fun. That's awesome. Yeah. So in the engineering world, there lots of engineers. I know it's a tough field, but also there's coming out of school. What are some of the things that you do to set yourself apart, or or is there something that comes easy to you that others find challenging within the engineering world?
Well, over the years, I played a few different roles at this company. Somebody commented once, I think I was getting an award, and somebody who was giving me the award mentioned that I've always become an expert in something. So whenever I get assigned some new task to do, I try to learn as much as I can about it. And instead of just doing the job, try to become, the expert in the office in this particular task. Like, we started using a new software program that everybody needed to learn to do the job. And, I was the one that adopted it first and decided, well, how are we going to use it? And then, put on a training for everybody else.
And that's great, because I think sometimes people are like, oh, something new, I want to stay in that same lane, same groove, and kind of fight against it. So being someone that'll step in and go, all right, it's new, it may be challenging, but I'm going to learn it.
Yeah, it does get, I guess, as we get older, it's a little bit easier to get set in your ways. Now that I'm, over 20 years in theory, I should be halfway to retirement by now. But I still try to, well, you got to stay fresh. You got to, the industry evolves, things change, and you don't want to keep doing things the same way. Even if you can, I mean, sometimes your skills become obsolete. Other times you just want to be able to, you want to set yourself apart. Like you said, you want to, well, okay, well, then how do we go? We're competent at this. How do we take it to the next level? And we want to be the best. We're competing, with other businesses trying to, get to bring in more business. So we want to set ourselves apart.
That's awesome. I heard somebody recently say that, make yourself valuable, make yourself where your company can't be without you. And that's, being the
Right.
person that's going to learn the new software or whatever project you're on. If there's something new about that, digging in and researching and learning about it is an awesome way to create that value for your company. Do you have any podcasts or books, be it music or professional or just growth that you're currently perusing or like to tune into?
There's a couple. I don't have a single stand. I do listen to a lot of podcasts. I mostly do it for maybe information and current events. Like because I like investing, I listen to a lot of finance podcasts, people's takes on macroeconomics and things like that. As far as actually trying to get better at things, that book, The One Thing, has that author. He's got a podcast. Papasan, that's his last name. I wish I remembered his first name. Gary or Jay or something. It might be. Do you have it? It's one of
I
those
have that
books you
book
might
back there.
know.
I know I've read
Yeah.
it. I've tried to read them backwards. I'll have to tune the one thing. I'll have to tune into his. So I like growing. So how about in the last year or so, or just not even last year, if you had any big challenges you've had to overcome, even, maybe getting your education, become an engineer, or you sound like you've been at the same company since right out of school, but, any challenges that or even health challenge, fitness challenges, something like that you would maybe feel comfortable sharing.
Well, to change shift the topic slightly to fitness challenges. I was actually a former athlete in high school and college, track and cross country.
Oh, cool. I
So
did not know that.
yeah, I don't talk about it as much now because it feels like kind of a past life. I mean, I still like to stay fit, but I'm definitely not training to compete in anything anymore. Um, but back in those days, we would run every day, 8, 10 miles, like 70 miles a week, and I after a while, I mean, I was kind of injury prone, and now that I'm not really competing anymore, again, I determined, all right, what can I do and stay healthy? If running 60 miles a week is, I'm just going to get injured and be limping all the time, then reduce it. So now I only run like one day a week, and I do other forms of exercise other days. I'll be in the gym lifting weights one day. I do yoga another day. Some days I just go for a long walk or I ride a bike or something. And I still stay active, but I stay below that threshold where I'm going to get injured. And then, because it's counterproductive. If you like, oh, my knee hurts, I have to take 2 weeks off. And then you're better off, doing a little, not pushing it to the extreme, because then you can stay
Yeah.
consistent.
Yeah, and it keeps you moving. I've read, and I don't recall what book it was, but it talked about distance running being actually less healthy. I mean, it's better than sitting on the sofa eating potato chips, but it's if you're doing it for health, that it actually you're between your joints and longevity, it's not quite as good as going out and mixing it up like you're talking about or doing high intensity interval trainings. And that guy said, do if you could twice a week do 6 reps of run as hard as you can, I think for 30 seconds, walk a minute and a half and kind of let your heart rate come down, but just do that 6 times. And then with that, your metabolism was elevated, like, I don't know if it was 4 or 6 hours later, but running 3 miles, your metabolism was only elevated for 30 minutes after the run. So it's kind of an interesting take on distance running versus the high intensity interval trainings.
It's funny you say that it was in a book, because I've actually had this theory myself for a while that running is not that great for you. I don't think a doctor would ever say that, because being sedentary is so much worse.
Sure.
That, I mean, exercise, even exercise that's hard on the joints or the ligaments, is better than no exercise. So
Correct.
no one's ever going to discourage you from running. Yeah, but I'm convinced there's safer forms of exercise out there now, or whether it's just walking or swimming or biking or something
Some
that has lower impact.
Something I've gotten into is carrying things and hanging. There's a Peter Attia Outlive book. Talks about longevity, and one of them is grip strength. and the ability to carry things. Like there's a kettlebell challenge where you try to carry a third of your body weight and switch it in a farmer carry for 1 mile.
Your hands or your arms?
Hand like a kettlebell, let's say a
Oh, wow.
60,
Yeah.
70. I'm up to 50 pounds that I
Wow.
can do. I got a 1 mile loop around my neighborhood, and 1 mile is about, it takes me 19, 20 minutes to do it. And that's about the extent of what I can do with it. And I've been doing some rucking also. And then the same guy talks about another challenge is try to go 1 minute with your half your body weight in each hand and walk. And I'm up to, I need to be higher. I've done up to 70 pounds, one 70-pound dumbbell at the gym, just walking. They probably think I'm this doddering old man. Like, what is this guy doing walking around with two big
Looking for a
dumbbells?
place to sit down. I
Exactly. So,
I've done walking with like a hiking backpack full of weights because maybe I
yeah.
was preparing to climb a mountain or something. So it's similar to what you're talking about, but I think actually holding in your hands is a lot more difficult. So yeah, I don't know how long I
It's
can go
working
with
on your
that.
grip strength. I have a ruck
Mhm.
vest too that I do. He taught that was another book. Not do hard things. Um, oh, it's another book. The guy that he got into the whole rucking scene, and that it said, going back to the caveman days, we were carrying hunks of meat. You're carrying something all the time, and that
Right.
we've lost that to where we basically sit at a desk multiple hours a day.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, so my office now has got a stand-up desk, and I can't believe if my back starts to get stiff, I stand up the rest of the day, and I can't believe how much that helps. I
Yeah,
have to get into
this
the
is
habit
it.
of just not sitting down.
Yeah, I have a stand-up desk also, and that's one of those books too talks about you used to at least have to walk down the hall to get a piece of paper off the printer or do
Right.
something. Now it's usually all within arm's length,
Yeah.
so you can spend a full day, other than maybe getting up and going to the restroom, never leaving your chair if you're
Yeah.
not careful.
Yeah, there was a brief period during the start of COVID where we were working remotely, and I mean, I couldn't believe how little. If I didn't go out and take a walk or something, because I live in an apartment. It is not like I don't have like a yard to walk around or a house to move things around, and I mean, it's incredible how little you move in a day if you don't have anywhere to go.
No, for sure. Working from home, I'll do that where I have to get out and even go check the mail.
Mhm.
We had a dog, but he passed away. I would try to take him. He was older, so just a little 1 mile walk with him through the day, just anything to get in the sun, if nothing else, and take a few steps. So awesome, a good health detour there. So it sounds like things are going well in the world. So as people are start doing better in their career, maybe have an income, they start thinking of looking at the future and ways that they can create income, or create income while they're working at their job or sleeping, not necessarily replacing their job. What are your thoughts? I know you said you love digging into investing and different things like that. Do you have any thoughts on how that world's going right now?
Yeah, I mean, and I mean, if I actually remember the day, not the day, but like the year where I started really having more money than I was spending, and I said, well, what should I be doing with this money? Aside from contributing a little bit to my 401k, but I never put that much in. And then I started realizing like I gotta, I let it sit in the bank and earn 1% interest. I gotta do something with this. And then I started reading about how much it can really pay off, whether it's even if you're just contributing to your 401k and index funds or investing in real estate, which I learned a little bit about. But in general, you just have to pick something you're comfortable with and do it over a long period of time and don't wait for the right time. Because, that day, it's probably been at least 10 years or more when I finally decided I got to learn how to invest properly because I have extra money. Um, and in that time, which would be what, 2015, I mean, you look at the stock market has probably at least doubled or tripled since then. I don't know if it should have gone up that much, but it has happened. So if you
Yes.
didn't invest, the S&P 500 is probably at least two or three times what it was back then. And if you waited back then, I mean, you would have missed out on a lot of gains. I mean, the same thing with did start investing in real estate around that time, maybe 2016 or so. And even then, people said, "Oh, we're kind of in a bubble. The economy, when did the economy turn around? About 2012 or so. Everything kind of crashed around 2009. It took a couple of years to recover, but there's never like an all clear sign where you can say, all right, everybody, it's safe to invest your money now. You have to kind of take a risk. And as long as you're investing money you don't need right away, everybody should be setting aside money for emergencies. And
Sure. Yeah. Have that emergency fund, your
yeah,
expenses, your emergency fund, and then investment money.
yeah. And I heard something on a podcast recently, and it's kind of, I mean, it was obvious, but the way that they put it, spelled it out was just that the emergency fund isn't necessarily, it's, I mean, it's there in case you lose your job or something bad happens, your car blows up and you need a new car or something. But, and that's really what it's for. But the secondary benefit is that it saves you from panicking. So if you have a whole bunch of money tied up in the stock market and the market drops by 40%, you don't panic and sell because you don't need that money. Your emergency fund is the money you're going to spend. So who cares what it's looking like now if you're not going to touch it for 10 years anyway? So
Well,
it keeps you from making a bad choice.
and I think something you said is nice too. It's some of it's long term. You're not looking,
Yeah.
you're not needing to live off of it. So be it real estate or the market, you just put it in now, plan on cashing in 20 or 40 years from now when you are ready to retire or or back off a little bit from work would be, good advice. And I think something else Paul said earlier is he loves learning. Like you said that you knew you needed to invest. You didn't just go out and plunk it in somewhere. It sounded like you did some research and you learned about different ways to invest and
did some reading on what to do, I mean, becoming a landlord or, and there's some good websites about whether, there's great websites to read about real estate, or there's websites just to read about stock investing. There's even websites where you can read about investing in index fund versus picking stocks. There's always, then you can find online communities if you have to talk about it. And people end up posting the same questions time after time again. So you start realizing this is really, and it's not basic to you at first, but you read about it and then you start realizing how simple it is.
yeah, and I think the key is learning. It's just, learning in whatever you're doing. Paul talked about it in his engineering world when some new project comes up or computer software that he learns, investing, health. We talked about it with health. So, Paul, as we wrap up the interview, do you have any exciting plans or initiatives, anything you're working on in the next 6 to 12 months, travel or work stuff, anything fun on the horizon?
I used to go, around August, I used to flee to South America because I couldn't stand the heat here in Texas. So I would go someplace where it was cold to the Southern Hemisphere. I haven't done that in a couple of years now, but I had a little tradition of doing that. I think I'm going to go probably go see my family up north in New England this summer. So it's a little bit less exciting.
That sounds awesome, and getting away from the heat. We've gone into Mexico. I went to Medellin, Colombia, a year and a half, 2 years ago. That was year round. They call it the city of eternal spring, and it's not that far south, but it's that elevation.
Right.
And I felt completely safe. But early on, I looked at my what do I need to pack? And I looked at the weather, and every month, I think the low temperature range between 50 and 53, and the high was 80 to 83. 12 months a year, it's like the same.
Always the same, huh?
It's pretty much the same within 3 to 5 degrees.
Okay. Yeah, that's like there's parts of California like that where it's always the same all year round.
Correct. So that was awesome. Awesome. Nice. Well, thank you so much, Paul, for your time and sharing some of your insights and tips with us today. If anybody wanted to connect with you, what would be the best way to connect?
You could probably find me. You can find me on LinkedIn. I guess if you're listening to this podcast, you'll see how to spell my name. There's only one person, but with my name in Dallas, Texas. You can email me too. It's my full name at yahoo.com, PAULBONOMI. That's fine too. I like talking about investing or engineering too. I don't talk about that with people as much outside where I work. So I'm happy to talk about that too.
And tune in. What was the radio station again? KNON?
KNON 89.3 FM in Dallas, Texas, or DFW. And then it's KNON.org around the world.
Awesome. Thanks, Paul.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the Flex Forward podcast. If you've got grit, growth, and a great story, visit flexforwardpodcast.com/guest to apply and join us on the show.